Hi, this is Joe from Vanta. In today's digital world, compliance regulations are changing constantly, and earning customer trust has never mattered more. Vanta helps companies get compliant fast and stay secure with the most advanced AI, automation, and continuous monitoring out there. So whether you're a startup going for your first SOC 2 or ISO 27001, or a growing enterprise managing vendor risk, Vanta makes it quick, easy, and scalable. And I'm not just saying that because I work here. Get started at vanta.com.
Big news! Wayfair's President's Day clearance is on now, and you can score tons of huge deals. Like Wayfair's best deals since Black Friday. Right now through February 16th, you can score up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Like up to 50% off mattresses with fast and easy shipping straight to your door. Plus amazing flash deals on President's Day. Shop Wayfair's President's Day clearance now through February 16th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Welcome to Under One Roof MTL, where we are demystifying home ownership 1 week at a time. My name is Robin Flynn, joined as always by LJ Aguinaga of LJ Realties. Hey, LJ.
How you doing?
Very, very good. Also joined by one half of Fred Martin Mortgages, Martin Spalding. Happy Super Bowl Sunday, Martin.
Okay, here it goes. In order. Super Bowl, Patriots, Bad Bunny, chili and nachos, and finally the commercials. And oh yeah, the Olympics. I don't know about you guys, but I'm already exhausted.
There's so much stuff to watch. We are spoiled.
It's crazy.
Spoiled. Absolutely spoiled. Yeah, I'm very, very excited for the game today. Go Seahawks. What? I can't root for a Boston team. Come on.
Okay, I'm
How-
putting on. Oh, I'm gonna bet 25 cents with you.
Perfect.
Being high roller that I am.
Awesome. Okay, let's get to our trivia question of the week, brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. That's not 25 cents. You can win some cookies from Felix and Norton, delivered straight to your door if you know the answer to this question. What is the main purpose of a mortgage stress test? If you think you know it, 514-790-0800. Please be sure to include your name because we like to give you a shout out on the air. What is in the news this week? I saw this interesting article, guys, about variable rate mortgages becoming a more popular product, which is interesting given everything you guys have been saying about how interest rates are going to be pretty steady. I would think then people would lean towards fixed rates, but it seems more and more people want variable rates. What are you seeing, Martin?
So we're still going to see that 85% of people are going to go sign fixed. And I think that I think it's a big headline because most people go for fixed for the security of it. But I kind of took a step back and I said, what's really behind all this? I think there are three things. So I think it's price, expectations, and flexibility. So if we start with price, as of right now, variable rates are lower than fixed rates. So the inversion that we saw during COVID and coming out of COVID is now back to where it used to be. Generally, variable rates were lower than fixed. So for a lot of borrowers, especially those who are looking at their monthly cash flow, those savings are not negligible and they should not be ignored. And that's why they're gravitating that way. Expectations. Many believe, as I, that we're close to the rate cycle, the roller coaster ride that we've been on. And they're betting on rates staying flat or even drifting downwards. Third, flexibility. Variable rate mortgages often give borrowers the option to switch into a fixed rate later. So that option is a strong incentive. So that being said, it's still really important. It's about being comfortable with uncertainty. If you're risk adverse, walk into a fix. If you're willing to gamble a little bit and live with a certain uncertainty, then go for variable because that makes sense. If certainty really matters to you, then fixed is the right choice. So variable isn't making a comeback because Canadians suddenly love risk. It's because right now, the math, the outlook, and the flexibility are all lining up.
On that note, I actually read an article that the originations was up to close to 50% being variable. So I think that in the market, I'm not sure where exactly, but across Canada, we're seeing a huge uptick. And I think you're entirely right. It's not that people are really looking to bite into more risk ultimately, but the flexibility, like you outlined, is really the biggest driver of it. But it is really interesting to see how quickly sometimes we forget as consumers the pain that we went through our most recent variable cycle, and how we're open to exposing ourselves to that again. Because those are very interesting conversations I've been having with clients over the course of the last 6 months, as to where they want to go in that direction or the fixed rate.
Yeah, it's funny, LJ. That's a great point because I always use the filter of our practice. And so I always use the filter of what our clients are asking us for. And most are looking at short term fixed, but they're still looking at fixed. So most of them are gravitating, instead of going to a five, usually it's 525. So 5 year fix, amortized over 25 years. Now we're seeing a lot of people saying, you know what, I want to hedge. I want to go 3 years fixed. And sometimes we're looking at 25. And now we're also seeing them go to 30 years of amortization. So I always use the filter of, the day-to-day business that we conduct with our clients, and this is the feedback, or these are the requests that we're getting from our clients.
This was an interesting article, guys. I saw it in the Financial Post this week about, I mean, it was a very salacious headline about how home ownership is not the money machine it once was. So obviously I had to click on it. So when you read the article, it kind of talks a little bit about how some Canadians are deciding to refinance their homes so that they can pay down some debts that they've accrued, and finding out that there isn't enough there for them to pay down the debt. Now, LJ, I know you're going to be able to sort of debunk this with some actual data, but I was wondering, I should hope your home has appreciated in value more than you've accrued debt. But I'm wondering if there's also an element of, even if your home has appreciated in X number of dollars, that you just don't qualify for that new mortgage where you would be pulling out all of the equity that you've accrued. So you got to be careful with your debt and your spending, right?
So you're 100% right on that. Now, I'm going to really target the headline that they're using, stating that it's not the money machine it once was. As you said, I have a couple statistics here. If we look at the greater Montreal area and we look at what single family homes have done over the last 5 years, single family homes are up 56% in the last 5 years. And the current average price point, we're looking at about $630,000. That's the median price for a single family home. So if I look at that, it means that we went from roughly 400,000 up to $630,000. If in the last 5 years you have accrued more debt than $230,000 and you were hoping that your home was going to bail you out of that, there's other conversations we should be having. It's not that the home is not keeping up with you. You're right that you might not qualify to really tap into all of that equity, obviously, but then it comes down to some poor financial management along the way that got you into that situation. Because if I were to look at any of my clients and I tell them, hey, your home's going to be worth 56% more in 5 years' time, they would all say, how many homes can I buy? How many homes can I buy tomorrow? Where do I go from here? So it's super important to note that.
It's funny. I read the same article, and I tend to disagree as long as you're playing the long game. If you're looking for a short money-making machine, we know that the first couple of years of your mortgage, you're paying principally interest. But if you stick and you find the right home, long term, the gains that you make in that home, the day you decide to sell it, you pay no capital gains. And there was no mention of that inside the article. So as much as, we're seeing higher home prices, higher interest rates, property taxes, maintenance costs, transaction fees, it's not the gold rush that it once was. But if you hold on to it long enough, because of the capital gains exemption, I still think it's the right move compared to renting.
It's also the forced savings, and that's where a lot of people usually skip that part and that part of the thought.
Absolutely.
By having a mortgage, by having a roof over your head, you need shelter costs one way or another. So whether you're renting or you have a mortgage, it's going to be one or the other. Now, in theory, because everyone who's been watching Instagram or who's on YouTube, like, no, I should be renting. It's much cheaper to rent, and then I can invest all this money, and I'm going to make so many more returns. I don't have to worry about leaking roofs and plumbing and all of these things that are associated to real estate. And the reality is, there is definitely an argument for that. There's definitely a case study for that. But every single financial planner that I've spoken to and that I listen to online say, LJ, it simply doesn't happen. People don't take the delta of what they should be saving and invest it. People end up renting for more than they should. People end up taking the extra vacation, and they don't invest that entire delta. So from having a forced savings that is exempt from capital gains, you go to not having forced savings, to exposing yourself to everything, and ultimately not having a nest egg. The exact amount is escaping me, but I believe it was something like, and I think we looked at this a couple years ago, the average net worth of a homeowner versus a non-homeowner. It was staggering. It's 90 times more, 99 times more the net worth of simply somebody who made the decision to buy a home versus not. And I'm very into finance. I'm very into, yeah, you know what, this makes sense. And it's not right to buy a home for everybody. But the more I dig into this, the more research I do, people don't have the ability
The
to
discipline.
the discipline to sit down and save what they need to save and really invest that money aside so it starts working for them. So the more I peel back the onion, the more I'm going to say that, yeah, you have to buy a single family home where you can live in, where you can be comfortable. And even if you don't want to live in it, absolutely buy it an investment. Buy it a little bit further out, have that investment that's going to take care of itself. The rent's going to cover it, and just let it do its thing so that you're in the market and you're sheltering yourself, and be smart about your rental costs.
Because, a lot of people go, I got a raise, I got a raise, I'm making more money. And all of a sudden their spending habits change and they absorb that raise into their spending habits, as opposed to keeping your spending habit, whatever your burn rate is, keep it constant. And if you start to generate more income, then that additional income should be put into your FHSA, your RRSP, your TSFA, or to pay down your mortgage. It's just people that start to make more money, their lifestyle changes.
If you are ready to purchase a multiplex, invest in real estate, and you want somebody to oversee the day-to-day stuff for you, give the Plex Doctor a call, 514-709-6397. You can also check out the website, plexdr.com. Still to come, how to be a good landlord and actually make money doing it. LJ has some advice for investors coming up after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center. This is Under One Roof. I'm Robin. That's Martin. That is LJ. Is it possible to be a good landlord? Landlords really get a bad rap, especially if you spend time on social media. But there are good landlords out there, and that doesn't mean that you have to take a loss in order to be a good landlord, right, LJ?
100%. 100%.
So what would that look like, being a good landlord, but actually making money? I think people think a good landlord is, if I think about what would be a good landlord, someone who maintains the property, someone who gets back to you in a reasonable time frame when there's an issue, somebody who makes it easy to pay rent. I've had landlords in the past that made it challenging to pay them. So what would a good landlord look like?
I mean, you really hit the nail on the head here. People who are taking care of their properties, people who are easy to communicate with, who are available, who either them themselves are taking care of the property or they have a team in place to take care of the management for them. So there's always someone around. People who are reasonable when it comes to an issue, they get back to you in timely fashion. They hire professionals to take care of the work. They communicate properly. I mean, we can't always fix things immediately. Sometimes, I mean, most recently we were dealing with an insurance claim. There was a huge leak at one of our properties on New Year's Day, on January 1st. So we had to get an emergency team in. They came in the next day. That took 3, 4 days. And then, unfortunately, we've been waiting on the insurance company this month to finally approve the work so we can move forward with it. And some of the tenants have started to get frustrated because there's missing ceilings in some parts of the property. There's a couple of walls that had been removed, So, and we completely understand. And we've kept very open lines of communication with them. But ultimately, we're at the mercy of the insurance company so that we can actually start this work and make sure that we're covered by the insurer when the time comes. So by having those open lines of communication, by making sure that you are taking care of the property, that you're not a slumlord, quote unquote, that you're really improving the property, those are some of the best things to do. Now, with that, ultimately is going to come rental increases. And that's the other side of the coin. Everyone wants AAA service, but then gets frustrated at the cost of living under AAA service sometimes. Because if somebody replaced your windows, added an AC, freshly painted the apartment, did all this work to the building so that it's in great condition, and you really get excited when you come home and you see your property, there's going to be additional cost associated to that. And that's part of the game. It's going to be a give and take, obviously, because nobody can be in the business to not be for profit, to not be looking to make money at the end of the day. And that's where this balance is very delicate that we try and handle.
Doesn't it pay to be a good landlord? Because once you get good tenants, don't you want to take care of those tenants? Those tenants who take care of the property like it's their own, pay on time, are looking to renew, don't balk at reasonable increases. Because there's always a cost of change when someone moves in and moves out. You might lose a month, you might have to repaint. So doesn't it just pay to be a good landlord and take care of your good tenants?
Always, always. And last year we did that when we saw that the market had changed. We offered, I mean, even honestly, for the last 8, 9 months, a lot of the renewal letters that we've sent to our good tenants have been $20 to $30. It doesn't matter, the rental board calculator would have allowed me to send a 50 or $100 increase. I know that we are at market or even above market, and we have somebody good in place. We send a $20 increase just to make sure that we're continuing the habit of increases so that people don't lose the practice ultimately. But we know that on a $2,000 rent, a $20 increase is obviously so nominal that nobody's going to give pushback on it, knowing that the legal increase would have been higher. But ultimately, that we want to keep good tenants in place. You're 100% right that whether it's a paint job, whether it's fixing repairs, the 1 month vacancy, the rental commission for having a realtor rent out the property for us, all of these things incur costs, and a turnover is more than likely going to cost you 1 to 2 months worth of rent minimum. So that's why if we can keep a solid tenant in the property, that's always the best course of action. And if not, we make sure that we find out very early. So the rental board allows you to send your renewal notices 3 to 6 months before the end of the lease term. We always send it out at least 5 months before, usually the 5 month mark exactly, so that they have the 30 days to respond to us, or the 1 month, pardon me. That means that by 4 months out, we know if they're renewing or not. If they're not renewing, we have 4 months to find a new tenant, so that we just end up having to manage the any improvements, if you will, paint job, repair, stuff of that nature, as well as the commission. But with 4 months headway, we should not be dealing with a vacancy in the middle.
I'd love to chat a little bit about preventative maintenance because if you have a long term tenant who's been in one of your units for several years, presumably you haven't been able to get in there and really, put in a new coat of paint or things like that. What do those conversations look like with your long-term tenants to make sure that you are putting the appropriate maintenance in place?
We will go walk through all of our units twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall, and that'll give us an idea of what the unit looks like, if there's any immediate repairs that are required. Now, with those really long-term tenants in Montreal, it's kind of interesting that a lot of times they don't want you to do anything because they want to be exposed to the lowest increase possible. They've usually been there for a while. They have a low rent. They want to protect their low rent. So I say, no, 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 I'll paint. Or at most, you can buy the paint for me and I'll take care of it. So spend the $50 on buying the can of paint and we'll take care of painting it after that. They take care of a lot of their repairs on their own. They don't want us to go in and do it. They might have a leaky faucet, leaky sink. They'll take care of it. They say, don't worry about it. I'll do it with my cousin, my buddy. We got this. It's not a big deal. Obviously, for a larger issue, we're going to send our teams, plumbers, etc. But for minor things that you don't hear from them because they don't want you to hear from them because they don't want to raise any flags and they don't want the increases. But whenever we do our walkthroughs, we'll ask tenants like, hey, is anything giving you some trouble? Anything broken? Anything not right? And that'll usually be like, oh, you know what? The dryer's been giving me some issues, or hey, you know what? This door isn't closing properly. Can we please align it again? Stuff of that nature, minor things. And we send a handyman and we can take care of it right away. And it just makes it a better experience for everybody.
What separates an amateur landlord from a professional landlord? Because there are obviously lots of people who have maybe, a duplex and they rent out one of the floors. That would be a sort of small time landlord. But then there's obviously people who own multiplexes and they hire the plex doctor to manage everything for them. So what sort of takes you from, that beginning level to that next step?
I'd say it really comes down to what your vision is ultimately, right? If it was just, hey, I want to have a duplex or a triplex and it's just part of my nest egg and that's it, I don't want to go beyond that, that's great. A real estate investor, somebody who's really professional, landlord, is this is what they do. This is what they're planning on doing full time, whether they do have another job right now or not. And everything that they're trying to do, all the steps that they're taking is towards being a full time real estate investor, living off the revenue of their properties. And they handle it very differently. The outlook on that is a little bit different in the sense that usually when you're going to be a full-time real estate investor, we're going to do higher end repairs, or we might go a bit further knowing that we're holding this property for the next 30, 40 years. So whatever I'm going to do it with a long-term prognosis on it, understanding that that's going to save me money over the next 10, 15 years, even though it'll be more expensive today. So it's just the outlook and the way we handle certain repairs and stuff of that nature. So the financing changes, obviously, there's a lot of other points that we can get into right now. But really, in terms of the professionalism, I'd say it's the quality of the repairs, the team of people that they're sending, and the availability and response times, because this is their primary thing. They're not a full-time lawyer or a full-time doctor who's trying to do this on the side without hiring a property management company. And their full-time job obviously takes up the bulk of their time, so.
If you're not sure if now's the right time to invest in real estate, maybe you want to be a landlord, it's something you have as part of your long-term investment strategy, give LJ a call, 514-500-4040. He will help you run the numbers and figure it all out. Coming up, everything you need to know about private lending. That's after the news. This is Under One Roof MTL. I'm Robin Flynn. That's LJ Aguinaga. That is Martin Spalding. We are with you until 1 p.m. Private lending, myth versus reality. I love a headline like this, Martin. So when you said this is what you wanted to talk about, I almost didn't even want to know any more details. I wanted to be surprised, like the listener who's hanging out with us right now. So first of all, what is a private mortgage?
So as soon as we bring up a topic like this, it automatically gets a bad rap. And so as soon as you say the words private mortgage, private lending, and offer triggers fear. You've got the Shylocks doing deals in bathrooms. You've got shady lenders. You got people in trouble. You got high rates. But in reality, used properly, private mortgages are a necessary and legitimate part of the mortgage ecosystem. So, what is a private mortgage? So, in Canada, lenders fall under three categories. So, A, or conventional lenders, those are the big banks, the major financial institutions. B, or better known as alternative lenders, those are trust companies, credit unions, and private lenders. Those are individuals or mortgage investment corporations, or better known as MICs. So, private lenders lend their own capital, focus primarily on property value and equity. These are short term by design and are fully legal and regulated, especially in Quebec. Most private lenders are regulated by l'AMF, l'Autorité des marchés financiers. So, this is not the Wild West anymore.
Okay, so what is the role of private lending in Canada at this point?
So, the role of private lenders, they come in when timing matters. Maybe the income is complex. The situation is temporary. The equity in a home is very strong, but paperwork doesn't quite fit the box. So think of private lending more as a bridge and not as a destination.
So, okay, let's get into the sort of myth versus reality stuff. What are some of the more common, misconceptions you hear surrounding private lending?
Okay, so private mortgages are only for people in financial trouble. False. Many private borrowers are self employed, business owners, real estate investors, new to Canada, people between jobs, people restructuring debt. Often they're high net individuals who are temporarily non bankable.
So, private lenders don't care what happens to the borrower. They're just in it to make as much money as possible. Is that a true statement?
False. So private lenders care about the property's value, the exit strategy, the loan to value. Why? Because a private lender isn't interested in repossessing a property. They want the loan to be repaid on time with interest. Because foreclosure is extremely expensive, it's slow, and it's unwanted by the private lenders, especially in Quebec.
What about private mortgages are unregulated? I'm too nervous. I would never do something like that.
Okay, false again. In Quebec, specifically, when you're working with a mortgage broker, brokers are licensed by l'AMF, l'Autorité des marchés financiers. Consent and disclosure are required. Fees must be transparent and presented upfront. Borrowers receive a written mortgage agreement. This is regulated financial activity. It's not a back alley lending. And you're only on the hook once you've gone to the notary. So all this transpires, but before you go to the notary and sign on the dotted line, you can always back out.
Okay.
The reality is private lending makes sense for a lot of consumers out there. When you're doing a renovation project, if you're an investor, we see a lot of investors use these products all the time because a lot of the times the properties that make the most sense to purchase don't pencil out with the standard lending criteria of the banks. And when an investor is looking at an opportunity where they can get a property under market value because it's probably under rented right now, and then they're going to go in and negotiate with tenants and they're going to do a bunch of renovations and improve the property significantly. And after that part of the project has been done, they will put the property back on a more traditional mortgage. This is one of the only ways to really make things happen. It's also a thing of speed to transaction. You can sometimes, if somebody's in a bit of a pinch financially, say, hey, I'm willing to close in a week or 10 days' time because I will use private lending to make this happen. I've got the rest of the capital ready to go. And it really makes you a lot faster to transact. So while there are costs, there's fees, there's higher interest, there's a bunch of things associated to it. If the investment pencils out, it pencils out. The beauty of investing in real estate is that it's a pro forma, it's an Excel spreadsheet. If you can make it work with the numbers at hand, fantastic. And a lot of the times, the discount you can get by being able to close in such a short time frame will make up for the costs in the investment thesis. Just ensure that it's not a forever plan. It's a 6 months to a year, maybe 18 months maximum, because after that, I mean, the interest really does start to eat at the potential gains.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question was about exit strategy. It has to be short term, right?
The exit strategy is a must. So if you're dealing with a legitimate private lender, the first question they're going to ask you is, what is your exit strategy? Because they are short term. So usually they're 12 months, 6 months close. In other words, you can repay in 6 months. But they want to know, okay, how are you guys going to repay us? You're in a jam now. What's going to change in 6 to 12 months? And how are you going to pay us back? So sometimes it's simply as the sale of the property, refinance, and bring it to a B lender. Your income has stabilized, your debt has been reduced. The completion, as LJ just mentioned, of construction or renovations. But if there's no realistic exit strategy, both the lender is going to take a step back, and both the borrower should really think, should I be signing for a private loan if I don't have an exit strategy? So the danger isn't private lending. The danger is using this tool the wrong way.
LJ kind of mentioned that sometimes there's additional fees or interest rates could be higher. What should you expect if you take out a private loan or a private mortgage?
Well, as much as we want to talk about fees and we want to talk about interest rates, they're at the top end of the scale, because the risk is much higher for the lender. So the higher the risk, the higher the fees and the rates are going to be. And you're going to hate my answer, but it's a case by case basis. So it depends. Is it a private loan on a property that doesn't have a mortgage? Is it a private loan based on a property that already has a mortgage and it becomes a second rank? The variables will affect how much the fees are going to be and how much the interest rates are going to be. But it's going to be on the top end of the scale. It's going to be higher than conventional, higher than B, but it's a short-term strategy, a bridge from today to tomorrow to get you out of a jam. But that bridge comes with its costs.
Of course. Is qualification for something like this similar to a regular, traditional, conventional mortgage? You still need, I presume, T1 generals or your T4s, or what do you need?
No, it's all based on the equity. It's all based on what's the value of the property. The property will be appraised. Is there already a mortgage on it? And they look at the loan to value. So God forbid, at the end of the 12 months, you're not in a position to repay your loan. The lender wants to make sure there's enough equity in the home that if they have to foreclose, they can recoup their investment. So it has nothing to do with income. So no T4s, no T4As, no T1s, no letters of employment, no pay stubs. It really is based on the equity and the value of the property and the loan to value. And that's why we have brokered deals within 48 to 72 hours of getting a phone call.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay, to find out more about your lending options, get in touch with Fred and Martin. You can go to their website at fredandmartin.com. Coming up, our property of the week, plus the answer to our trivia question of the week after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center. Wrapping up on Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin, that's LJ, that is Martin. It is time for our property of the week, and we are heading downtown.
That is correct. Looking for light, luxury, and location? Welcome to 1265 Rue Lambert Clos, Unit 1209. This modern two-bedroom condo featuring floor-to-ceiling windows, a private balcony, sleek finishes, and panoramic views from the 12th floor with central AC, in-unit laundry, and access to a rooftop pool, gym, and terrace. This is city living at its finest. All this for just $465,000. Call 514-500-4040 to book your visit today. LJ Realty's, where Montreal moves. Now, while you're in the area, I like to think that there's a plethora of options to eat. My go-to, like that?
You wanted to use that word today, right?
My C-Sharp English teacher would be happy.
Okay.
My go-to is Kazu Montreal, an amazing Japanese street food restaurant on St. Catherine.
Amazing. Awesome. So that was 1265 Rue Lambert Plus, right?
That's correct.
Hey, LJ, I got a question for you. I was listening to call it a podcast or an interview this morning, and the person on the phone was talking about the gap. So the gap is there's a ton of high-rise condos, 600 square feet, and there's a ton of what he called the mansions on the periphery of the major cities, $1 million plus homes. But what's missing is the in between. He called it the middle. And he said that Montreal has more middle than Ontario, but because there was an announcement by the Canadian government, they're going to start actually taking over the building of homes in Canada. But do you feel that there's a lack of those middle homes, single family dwellings where a family can actually start a family or raise a family in a home that is big enough but affordable enough that they're not going to be paying their mortgage for the next 50 or 60 years.
I think that in Montreal, we definitely have a lot of options available to us. I think that if you go within 20 to 30 minutes of downtown Montreal, whether that's in the West Island, the North Shore, Laval, South Shore, adjacent, we've got a ton of options available to us at a still accessible price point. Obviously, it's not what it used to be, but we can find a ton of properties in that $500,000 to $900,000 price point, which is quite accessible to a lot of Montreal families who are looking to get into that target range. So I think there are options. I'm sure that Toronto, Vancouver are a lot more negatively affected by this, to be quite honest. Could it always be better? Yeah, of course, it could always be better. There's always going to be different alternatives available to us. But as we stand today, I'm pretty happy with the options that we have to offer families in the greater Montreal area.
Okay, let's get to the answer to our trivia question of the week, brought to you by Felix and Norton. You can visit their store, by the way, at the Blue Haven Shopping Center, 3705 St. John's Boulevard in DDO. Our question this week was, what is the main purpose of a mortgage stress test? The answer, the main purpose of a mortgage stress test is to ensure that borrowers can afford their mortgage payments if interest rates rise or if their financial situation changes. It's basically a rainy day safety mechanism to prevent borrowers from taking on more debt than they can manage, which reduces their risk of defaulting. So congratulations to Costa in St. Eustache. You win some delicious cookies from Felix and Norton. That pretty much...
So building on that, just because you qualify for a mortgage at the top end of your capacity doesn't mean you should purchase a home at the top end of your capacity. And the stress test is one factor, but also common sense is the other factor. Because, yeah, maybe on paper you can afford it, but in reality, and I come back to my favorite meal, craft dinner and or beans. If you want to be house poor and eat craft dinner and beans, go for it. But when we pre-qualify you, just because you get pre-qualified for that amount doesn't mean you should spend it.
That pretty much does it for us for this week. If you ever want to ask the guys a question and have the answer featured on the show, you can email us at underoneroofmtl@gmail.com. You can also just email us and say hi. I get the emails on my phone, so I got push notifications turned on. I'll see it right away. You can also reach out to LJ, Fred, and Martin individually. LJ, where do people go to get in touch with you?
Check out our website, ljrealties.com, on all socials with the handle LJ Aguinaga. That's LJAGUINAGA, or LJ Realties with an IES at the end. You can also call or text me at 514-500-4040. And if you're looking to free up some time, contact our property management company, the Plex Doctor, to take over and give you back your time. You can find us at plexdr.com or reach out to my partner Terry directly, 514-709-6397. And if you do have any other real estate questions, feel free to book a meeting with me directly. The link to that is meetwithlj.com. You can book a time that works for both of us there.
Excellent. Martin, where do people go to get in touch with you and Fred?
So continuing the conversation about stress tests. Well, stress tests isn't, we're going to test how much stress we're going to cause when you sign up for a mortgage or you work with Fred and Martin and or with LJ. So what we're going to try to do is buying a house, applying for a mortgage. There is some stress because there are timelines that we need to respect. But working with either LJ or working with Fred and Martin, we're going to try to alleviate all the stress out of that transaction. In other words, let us do the heavy lifting. How do we do the heavy lifting? Contact us through fredmartin.com. And Fred's not here, so I'll have to say it 3 times myself. fredmartin.com and or Fred? fredmartin.com.
If you missed anything, you can listen to this show in its entirety. We're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. For YouTube, we're on YouTube. Yes, we're on LJ's YouTube channel. For LJ, Fred, and Martin, I'm Robin. Have a great Super Bowl Sunday. Go Seahawks.
Go Pats.
Go Bad Bunny.
Hi, I'm Chris Gethard, and I'm very excited to tell you about Beautiful Anonymous, a podcast where I talk to random people on the phone. I tweet out a phone number, thousands of people try to call. You talk to one of them, they stay anonymous. I can't hang up. That's all the rules. I never know what's going to happen. We get serious ones. I've talked with meth dealers on their way to prison. I've talked to people who survived mass shootings. Crazy funny ones. I talked to a guy with a goose laugh, somebody who dresses up as a pirate on the weekends. I never know what's going to happen. It's a great show. Subscribe today, Beautiful Anonymous.